Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have you here today. We're about to dive into the fascinating world of input and output in C programming. This is part 4 of our series, focusing on how C handles user data and displays information. Over the next few slides, we'll explore key concepts, practical examples, and best practices for working with input and output in C. So, let's get started and make this session both informative and engaging. Let's explore the 3 main functions of a C program. First, it takes input from the keyboard, then it processes that data, and finally, it displays the result on the screen. Now, it's important to understand that C, by itself, does not have built-in capabilities for input and output operations. Instead, input and output are handled through a set of library functions that come with every C compiler. These functions are not actually part of the core language, but they are considered the standard way to perform input and output in C. The collection of these library functions is known as the Standard Input-Output Library. For output, there are functions like printf and pachar, which are used to display information on the screen. And for input, we have functions like scanf and getchar, which allow us to read data from the keyboard. Today, we'll focus on printf and scanf, as they are the most commonly used functions for output and input, respectively. Understanding how these work is essential because they form the backbone of user interaction in C programs. Now let's take a closer look at the syntax of the input and output functions in C. First, we have printf, which is used for output. The basic structure is printf, message, where you can simply print a static message or text on the screen. But more often, you'll see printf with a format specifier, like printf. The value is %d, value. This allows you to display variable data in a formatted way, which is really useful when you want to present information clearly and neatly. Next, there's scanf, which is used for input. Its syntax looks like and variable. Notice that you need to specify the format of the input you're expecting, and importantly, you need to pass the address of the variable where the input will be stored. This connection between the format specifier and the variable is crucial for capturing user input correctly. Understanding these syntax structures is fundamental because they form the backbone of how we interact with users in C, reading data, and displaying information. Mastering their correct usage helps ensure our programs are both functional and user-friendly. Let's take a closer look at this example to understand how printf and scanf work in practice. First, we include the standard input-output header file with include stdio, h, which is essential because it contains the function prototypes for printf and scanf. Next, we declare our main function, the starting point of any C program. Inside main, we declare an integer variable called x. This variable is where we'll store the user's input. Then, we use print to prompt the user with enter the number. This is how we ask for input, making the program interactive. After that, scanf comes into play. It waits for the user to type a number and press enter. The %d format specifier tells scanf that we're expecting an integer input, and the ampersand before x indicates that we're passing the memory address of x, so scanf can store the user's input in that variable. Finally, we use printf again to display the value of x, which is the number the user entered. The output shows that if the user types in 10, the program will print out 10, confirming that the input was successfully read and displayed. This example highlights how printf and scanf form the core of user interaction in C programming, allowing us to communicate effectively with the user and process their input. This is fundamental to creating dynamic and responsive programs, which ties back to our overall theme of understanding how C manages input and output operations. All right, let's look at some challenge questions to practice our C programming skills. First, I want you to write a program that displays a simple message. This is my first time to learn the C programming. This helps us get comfortable with basic output functions like printf. Next, consider writing a program that takes a character as input and then displays its ASCII value. This introduces us to input handling and character data types in C. Remember, characters in C are stored as numbers, so converting from a character to its ASCII value is straightforward once you understand this. Then let's move on to printing patterns. Think about how to print a series of stars, each line adding one more star than the previous. Use the newline character, \n, to move to the next line, and you'll see the pattern emerge clearly. This exercise helps develop your understanding of loops and output formatting. Finally, there's a hot question I want you to think about. Use a variable named name to store your friend's name, and then print a personalized greeting like, "Hello, name. This is my first hot question in C." This combines string handling, variables, and output into one practical example, reinforcing how to make your programs more dynamic and interactive. Overall, these exercises connect directly to core concepts like input-output, variables, and control structures, which are fundamental building blocks for every C program. Mastering these will give you a solid foundation for more complex coding challenges ahead. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide.